Hello and welcome to the Depths of Motherhood podcast. We are in season 8 right now. I'm your host, Danielle, a mother, qualified nurse, doula, and just a woman passionate about making space for women's stories. We are gathering every Monday to explore the topic of the village. Together we'll ask, how can we reweave ourselves in ways that feel nourishing, while also strong enough to carry us through the challenges of modern times? My intention is this podcast becomes a place of comfort and also of courage. If you would like daily threads of women's history, follow the sister page on Instagram at Women's Circle Online. You're also very welcome to join our donation-based women's circles every Sunday. All the links can be found underneath this episode. Welcome everybody to episode 2, season 8. Today we're joined by a friend of mine, Amy Viola. We're going to be following a journey from when she began to listen to this inner voice guiding her to create a space where children could come, reconnect with nature, follow their curiosity. And this space is called Wild Haven. So we're going to be going from the seed being planted up until this point when it began to come through in this physical realm. She talks about motherhood as a catalyst for this shift internally, guiding her to this space that she's in today. So she's listening to herself, she's listening to the family, and then she found this part inside of her that is saying, create it yourself. And it all came from this place of, how can I create something where children follow their curiosity, where they feel guided by this light inside of them. And so Wild Haven was created. And there's a much bigger vision coming with this, to weave in the village into this project, bringing children and families together from all different backgrounds and creating this from the roots up. And really in the center is the children, trusting the children as the pulse of the community. So very, very excited to share this with you. And a little bit about Amy is she's always had this connection with children. She's always felt that she has an innate ability to hold space for children, to really see them. Originally, Amy intended to become a guidance counselor, but midway through her degree, she realized that memorizing information she felt like she would never truly use was not the path for her. So she completed a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and History, and later moved to Vancouver, where she immersed herself in emotional healing through yoga, energy work, breath work, counseling, and later training as a holistic doula. These foundations have continued to shape how she holds space for both adults and children. And I've been lucky enough to sit with Amy in circle and feel her energy and her warmth and her presence. She really does have that rooted, grounded qualities coming through, but also in this anchoring and stability, it's like anything can come through, and it feels safe. It feels like she's there listening, seeing beyond the words and really feeling what is coming through. And this is all contributing to this manifestation of Wild Haven. She's listening, she is observing, and she is allowing it to move through her and be created. And it's very, very inspiring to just sit with her, to listen, to feel the passion that she has for this. So I'm really looking forward to sharing this conversation with you. And whether you are looking for this kind of thing for your child, you're curious about self-direct learning or forest schooling or whatever other words it is, returning to nature, letting kids be curious, letting kids be kids. Whether it's you're thinking of starting this up yourself, or maybe you want to join Wild Haven and you want to know more about it. So we're sharing all of these things. We're following many different threads, and a very, very inspiring conversation for me as we just unravel the educational system, as we come back to ourselves to see the real meaning of education. So yes, let's get into this conversation. And again, if you're interested in joining Wild Haven or you have any questions for Amy, then please go to the show notes and you're going to find her details there. And if you have any insights that have come through as you're listening to this, you can write in the comments or you can come and find us on the Depths of Motherhood on Instagram. I'm hanging out there sometimes. So, yes, let's sit down, let's tune into this conversation. And thank you so much for being here. Welcome, Amy. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to sit down with you and find out more about you and about Wild Haven. So before we begin getting into this conversation about your beautiful baby, Wild Haven, then I would like to know about you. How did you come to find yourself in Costa Rica doing this incredible project?
Yeah, so we got here 3 years ago from the Netherlands. I was living in the Netherlands with my partner, who's Dutch, and I was super unfulfilled there. I lived there for 5 years, and I went through a really dark chapter, mentally, emotionally, um, giving birth in a new country. About 10 months after I landed there, I found out that I was pregnant with my son Onyx. And yeah, being in a new country, not having the kind of support that I needed, friends, family, was really, really challenging. And yeah, so through those dark times, I remember just sitting on the couch, breastfeeding, looking outside at the gray, rainy streets in Harlem, all these buildings, no trees, just like feeling so miserable. And in my mind, I would just take myself to Costa Rica. I had been here, I think, at that point, 3 or 4 times already. So I already had a connection with the country and the land here and the way that I felt whenever I would visit this country. It felt like it was very easy to be myself. I felt very free in myself in this country specifically. So, um, anyways, after that period, it got to a point, or during that period, it got to a point where I felt so unhappy that I had to make a decision to change something. And I had no idea how I was going to get to this country. My partner didn't want to come here. Um, and I wasn't working much at that time. So I didn't have the funds to get here and start a life here. But it got to the point where I had to choose myself, which meant choosing to leave the Netherlands, even if my partner didn't want to come. And I actually got to that place of choosing myself. And even though it was fucking scary to imagine coming here without my husband, who I didn't want to separate from, but it felt more scary for me to keep living the way, well, I wasn't really living, but keep being in that state that I was in for years. It felt so long, like I couldn't get out of it. I remember feeling really trapped and not knowing a way out. And that was really scary for me to not have an out. I hadn't been in that position in my life before. So when I really got honest with myself and made that decision, I'm going to find a way to just get here with Onyx, and then we'll find a way to, make it work, co-parenting. Um, then things magically aligned so that we could move here. And I remember the day my husband, T, came to me and he said something like, you came here, you've tried, and if we don't try, then, who knows? And he knew I was suffering. He could see it, and I was probably horrible to be around a lot of the time. And yeah, I was really in that kind of victim consciousness, and I knew that I was in it, but I couldn't get out of it. So it was like I was aware that I was in it, but I didn't know how to not feel like a victim in my own reality until I made that choice of coming to this country. So yeah, to not make it too long, after 5 years of living in the Netherlands, we came here. We went to this area, San Mateo, with eco villages like Lake Obia and Alegria. And then we started Onyx in this school called Casasula. And that was amazing. That was one of the most inspiring parts of our time there. And that's where the concept of, they call it non-directive learning. I call it self-directive learning, but it's the same. And that's where we got to really witness for the first time that children do not need to be told what to do or how to do it. And we can really trust them and their own inner guidance. And if we give them the right environment, they know the way forward. And he was there for, I think, about a year. And um, then Casa Sula closed and it was becoming a completely different school. And at that point, it was the only thing keeping us in that area. And we had come to visit Chiripo, and me and my partner, we just right away when we came here, we're like, this is really special. This is really special. And T hadn't felt super happy living in Costa Rica. And it was such a shift in him to see my partner, who was like, I don't like it here. He was feeling a lot of anger and frustration and irritable all the time. And then we came to this mountain and we went to this place called La Montaña Azul. And we stayed there for 2 nights, and something in him immediately shifted. So from being in that state to feeling like he had this direction in him of like, I want to live here. I want to be here. Let's do this. And then the school, Casa Sula, it was closing, and that was the only thing keeping us there. So then we decided that we could trust that feeling that if we both felt something so strongly in this country, we just got to do it. And when I had come here, I did not come with the intention or the plan to create a children's group or a school. That wasn't in my plan. And Onyx is somebody who needs other people around. He's super social. So I think homeschooling at home is amazing, but it's just not right for our family. So we took him out, and then I just was trying to find other families to do life with, to do hanging out with, to do unschooling with. And I was trying and trying, and nothing was working. And then this must have been at least like 6 months gone by. And I just kept feeling like, I feel like I'm in the right place. But it's really strange that nothing has come up. I've been sending messages out. I've been trying to coordinate with other families. Like nothing's happening. So like, what's going on here? And that shifted when I had a dream one night. And we had friends here, and her daughter had been in a school, and she was having a really hard time at the school. And she actually climbed out the bathroom window one day and walked 20 minutes home by herself, a 6-year-old girl. And she's like a powerhouse soul, this little girl. And so she came to me in my dream, and she said something like, Amy, all this work that you're doing now to stand up for yourself, to be in your power that got taken away from you when you were a child, I'm doing that now. And so I woke up from this dream just feeling so activated. I felt anger. I felt rage. And that was the day I woke up and I felt I need to take this fire in me. And who am I not to create something? It went from like, I'm not doing it. This isn't my plan. I don't want to do this, to who am I not to do this? I have a mission and I got to protect these children. And they're showing us, they're telling us through these behaviors. And so, yeah, she was like my little spirit messenger. And I'm so grateful for her to come to me in my dream, because that was what shifted it. And I woke up, I wrote an email from my heart, super fiery email, just about what's not okay and what needs to be different. And I'm just going to create it and who's with me. And then there was like this series of events of people somehow getting these emails, and then the space showed up to have it in, and everything just fell into place after that very fast. I think I wrote the email in November and we opened in February. Like the
Wow.
space showed up. Like everything just happened for this project to be born.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And it's interesting because what happened to you and the way that you felt this calling, which first came as a discomfort, is that, I know maybe you have a different word for it, but something was saying this is not right. There's another way. And you said something about time. It seemed to last forever. Like time slowed down in the moments till really like you were feeling into it and it got really loud to the point that you knew you had to get, you knew you had to take another path, and you were willing to do that. You were willing to follow that and completely change your life. And what happened when you followed this inner guidance, things started to come into place. And it wasn't, almost sounds like it wasn't from the mind, but it was from this guidance, even from your dreams, pointing you in that direction and also giving you the fire as well to send that email, to realize why this is so important, and also being very clear on what is happening in the reality right now, what you're experiencing, that something new has to be created. And I think that in itself is such an inspiring story, because for anyone listening, we can adapt that to any part of our life when there is that conflict or discomfort. If we really allow ourselves to sit with it and be with it and feel that inner guidance and come to trust that inner guidance and that inner wisdom, to trust that the path will take us somewhere, that there is something moving us beyond the logical mind, and that things will come into place. And it also requires that ability to observe and to listen and to be open to synchronicities and magical interactions, such as your dreams. And I love this. I love this story. Like, obviously, we've sat and we've chatted about this before, and the second time I'm hearing it, like, I'm getting goosebumps just listening to it. And so I've been to visit your beautiful place, and it is magical. Like, it is. When I stepped into that area, just the land, just the feel of it, it feels so special. It feels so nourishing, and it feels like it wants to have a relationship. Like, when I think of the word reciprocity, if I was to put a place on it, it is that place. There is that feeling where it wants to interact, it wants to play, it has things to show you, and it offers these ideas and possibilities. And then all it takes is a human being who's willing to go beyond what they think they should be doing as a human being and actually step into play with nature and the universe for what is actually being welcomed on Earth right now. Because I think what you're creating here is supporting the bigger collective. Like, it's supporting a possibility that can happen when we come together with nature, with other human beings, with a shared vision of a way to liberate ourselves from systems that have been imposed on us and deeply conditioned within us. And I think I'm really looking forward to hearing about, as well, in this conversation, getting to that point of, holding this space and also coming together with other parents, knowing that we do have these conditioned beliefs and we have ideas about ways that we can raise kids, but being able to do it together and staying open with this new way of learning. When I say new way, I know that educated at its roots means to offer the space for kids to be curious, but it came to be distorted to mean, I'm going to tell you. I've got a curriculum and this is what I'm going to tell you. So there's a huge distortion in just the word itself, education. And what I hear you saying already is like letting our kids be curious, letting them be co-creators in this school as well. So what would you say is your philosophy for Wild Haven?
Yeah, so I feel at the core, the philosophy is what I felt from that dream, honestly, which is protecting the sovereignty of each child.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means and how we can guide and support them in that is by creating a space where they feel safe and offering them guidance to lean in, to connect inwards, to connect with their intuition, and giving them the space to choose for themselves, giving them space to actually feel themselves. So unlike traditional schools, it's usually like, okay, this is what we're doing now. This is happening. This is what you're learning, and this is how you're going to do it. At Wild Haven, we want the children to connect with who they are, connect with the truth of who they are, and then act from that place. And I mean, even you've seen it, even the nature at Wild Haven, I feel like that in itself is enough, for them just to be there and get inspired from the nature. But we have a space set up, so there's all sorts of different elements that they can get inspired from. And yeah, really encouraging them to honor themselves and to speak their truth. And I believe, even connected to what I just shared, I'm a big believer that when we can choose ourselves, like fiercely, radically choose ourselves, that's when life and the universe will support us. And that's when everything comes into alignment. And if we are helping the children to practice this and for this to become normal, when they get older, it doesn't have to be so scary to choose yourself. It doesn't have to be so scary to speak up. So this is just normal, everyday things at Wild Haven that we're teaching the children. And it's no different than how it is in my adult relationships. It's the same type of honoring our truth. It's the same kind of communicating. It's the same time of honoring our authentic emotional expression.
I love that so much. And I feel it's with many adults today, even finding our way back to our inner truth, like that can seem so far off, like, oh, connect to your inner truth or your inner wisdom. And it can be so far away because of the disconnect from our body, from the earth, and to trust what that means, actually. I think it's a really big practice for many adults to actually be able to stay with the sensations in their body, to come to trust what the body is communicating, because for many of us, we have been brought into a world where we are forced to disconnect from what our body is telling us. And it starts from school, like depending on what homes were like as well. But in schools, in my school, for instance, we had to go to the toilet, and we might not be allowed to go. We might just have to go to the toilet before we go into class, or we might not be able to drink or eat in the class. Like there's many different things I can think of where I wasn't able to honor my body. And so that disconnect continued throughout my life with not only just the basic needs of my body, but also being able to speak my truth, being able to ask questions that were outside the syllabus. And I feel that this is such an opportunity to be able to let our kids guide us, because they're going to be the ones who are the caretakers of this earth once we've gone. So if we can think of that, I know it seems huge. It's like you are going to be the guardians of the earth, but there is that relationship, and there is so much happening in the world right now, as we know, that they are going to be stepping into adulthood one day, and how they connect to themselves and the world at the time and the earth is going to have an influence and an impact on that moment and generations to come. So although what I just said is like, seems very intense, it really starts from the simple things with what you're saying is how can we get them to connect to their body, to feel the enjoyment and the peace of being in nature? Because I think that's another thing as well. Can we be at peace being in nature, or are we already looking for a distraction to get away from it? So I find that like what you're sharing here is very inspiring, not only for, parents who are looking for a school like this, but also in their own home, like if they have kids have to go to public school sometimes, like maybe that's what's available and parents choose that. But we can take this wisdom and this exploration into our own homes and how we're raising our children and how we're being as well with ourselves, really. So Wild Haven's been going for almost a year.
Yeah, well, this year is complete, the 2 cycles, and then we start the second year in February.
Right. So now on the other side, what would you have to share about that?
Yeah, so I came in with the vision, and with that vision, while I had deep trust and total faith that this is what the children need, I had no idea what was gonna unfold, right? Because I've never done it before. And we're really giving them the freedom and the safety to be their authentic selves. Um, yeah, so what I reflect from this year? Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind that I really am proud of the kids with is they all of them. We've come to a place with them where they can really express how they feel and stand up for themselves. So, for example, not only with each other, like, "Hey, when you did that, I don't like that. That made me feel sad." They feel seen in that from the other person, from the other child. And then, asking them when we're facilitating that, do you wanna make a request? Do you need anything else? Um, yeah, I need you to give me space. So,
Mm.
because we've kept repeating these processes with them, it's they're doing it on their own now, which is so cool to see. And then, like, taking it to another level, they're doing it to us, to the guide. So if something happens and they're like, "Nope, I felt something that didn't feel right." They'll be like, "Excuse me, when you said that, I didn't like that. That made me feel uncomfortable, or that made me I don't like that." So they're speaking up to, like, these adult authority, which we don't wanna use the word authority, but on some level, we're authority, right?
Yeah.
Um, and they're able to name how they feel and be there for themselves, which I think is so cool because it took me, like, even still, I can feel that old wound. I've had it with landlords in this country. It's like, wow, they're my landlord. I can't speak up or say something that really doesn't feel good for me because I've been conditioned that way when I was a child. You just don't speak up. You don't speak up to the adults or to the authority figures. So when I see the children in Wild Haven just being like, "Hey, this doesn't feel good. And I want to tell you that," or "I don't like when that guy did that." And then the guide and the child will talk together and have a beautiful process. It's just amazing. It makes me so proud of them.
Love
Yeah.
it. I'm writing down as you speak because there's so many coming through, and I have goosebumps, and I also have tears in my eyes. You won't be able to see it. Maybe you won't see it. Maybe you can, because it is something that touches something very deep in ourselves, of us having the ability to speak our truth, to make space, to be in uncomfortable situations. I mean, the term conflict resolution comes up in my mind. Yet it's something beyond even that label. It's just having the moment where you want to speak your truth, you want to be heard, and you want that space for that to happen. And it's so important because all the times through our life, as kids or as adults, when we've been silenced, when we've been told that that is that's not the right way to speak or the right way to feel or be. And so many of us are working through that in our lives of the uh, the deep shame. We might not even think it's shame, but that inherent belief that we're not good enough as we are. And I think when we bring it back down to the kids now, when we observe them, we can see easily how, if we were to treat them a different way, if we were to silence them and say, "Don't feel like that, don't say that," we can see how these layers up and they have an idea about themselves. And I've seen it firsthand, Amy, when you've been working with the kids, or when you've been holding space for the kids, when they've been having some of these conflicts, so to speak, how you hold it and you observe and you see where you may need to give some guidance with it. And there is that space and there is that time. And I think it is so beautiful. And I also notice it in my own body. I feel like my natural go-to would be to fix something, to like solve the problem, to bring peace. And what you're doing in these spaces is letting it breathe, letting it be felt, and letting it come to see what is actually happening here. because a lot of the times we can just want it to go away, that feeling. So somebody caves in, somebody shrinks, and then this is like the dynamics that happens within the relationship as it continues. So I find that so beautiful and inspiring to see it outside of my own home with kids who are friends. Because even with Araya now, she's hilarious. She will say to me, like, I just need my own space. And I'm like, oh, well then you. Like, good for you. I'm like, is that all I need to say too? Like, I just need some space. But I know she's learned from watching us of what we're doing as well in our home. And it's just so, I think yes, healing is the right word. It's so healing to see our kids interact in this way and say what they need at such a young age as they're even getting to know their body. But actually, when I think of it, they're the one at that age, they can feel so deeply. So this is a prime time to continue that connection with their body. How have you felt with that? Like holding these space for the kids, being able to be that person who is observing and not just being automatically wanting to or trying to fix it or change the situation.
Mhm. Well, yeah, for me, I've had a lot of experience in it with holding space and emotional work. That's what my background is in. So it's not new for me. I've had a lot of practice. So yeah, for me, it feels quite natural to do it, to hold the space and to know what they need. And also I know this from my own work. It's like to the degree that I've worked with my inner child and really been able to listen to her and give her what she needs, that's the same thing that the children need, right? So, yeah, it honestly feels like a privilege. It feels like a privilege and an honor to be able to give this to them, especially knowing how many adults are just not able to um to even let themselves feel something, let alone speak up and have these little kinds of processes with conflict. And I also, for me, like it's not super triggering when conflicts come up because I know that they're gifts. So, in let's say in many traditional schools, the way that they have the spaces are often very quiet and very controlled. And maybe there's less conflicts. And I believe that that's just like bypassing, what the children really need to make it easier for the person in that classroom. And I mean, I get it. It's usually like, what is the ratio now? Like it was 30 kids to one adult when I was a child. So they don't have enough, in my opinion, that's not enough people. When somebody is going through big feelings, they need one-on-one support. And we always make sure that we have one person to be with the child if they're moving through something, if they're feeling like quite dysregulated or, yeah, they need support, that they get one-on-one support and they can be with a guide who's trained in this way. And for somebody to be, one of the guides to be present with them. And then the other person or two people can be with the rest of the children. So yeah, to answer your question, I feel that the conflicts are beautiful and it's really confirming or affirming, confirming when we see that after we practice this with the kids, that they're starting to do it on their own. And it's like so worth it. It's like, give me all the conflicts because I know the other side of it. And it's just so beautiful to witness.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And this leads into another question. So I've been asking in my community, what do you want to ask about this topic? And I think one of the questions that came up a lot, I'll just put it into one question, is what do you feel around the children being guided by their own curiosity, yet not interacting with reading or writing or math if they don't feel like it? Do you hold a fear around that? at all, or noticed any fears come up with the parents that you're with? And what would your response be to that?
Well, I think it's quite a rare thing to not feel fear around that, considering the world that we live in and how most of us were brought up. It's like the only way that we know. It's like we went to school and we learned to read at school, and that's just how it was. And I can relate to that because until I met Margarita, the founder and the guide for Casa Sula, she was the one that really allowed me to trust on the deepest level that I can trust. So she, like, now I have a 7-year-old. I haven't lived the experience. I can't speak from my own experience and say, look at Onyx. He's like 20 years old and look at everything he's learned and everything he can do. But she has 2 sons and she raised them this way. And she's been in the field for years and years and years. And just seeing her passion and getting to observe that, I completely trust. And also, I mean, Onyx is 7 now. With him, everything that he's learned has been from him showing us that he wants to. So he loves, like, he's really fascinated by money and making lots of money. So he's learning about math because he likes money. And with reading, same. He just told us when he wanted to start reading. So it's like, I think as a parent, it's really important to it's not like you close to that or step away completely, but you're really listening for the right opportunity to be with them in what it is that they're inspired by. And it's not like I'm against books or like worksheets. We have a printer at Wild Haven. So some of the kids, because we always check in with them, are like, what do you guys want more of? What do you like? And one of the kids was like, we want worksheets. So I was like, great, let's print out some worksheets. So I have this membership for a website and we have all these worksheets. And when the kids are showing interest in worksheets or something related to one of those worksheets, we have worksheets for them if that's what they want. But we don't push anything because we trust them.
I'm totally with you on it as well. Even just Araya being 4, nearly 5, she's just shown me that I can trust it as well. Because we've never done the sit down to teach anything, yet we've followed her curiosity. And then we've come to meet her with ways that she can interact more deeply with it. And just seeing that has really built my trust in myself for all them parts of me that might be fearing that I'm doing it wrong. My thoughts in my mind telling me I'm not doing a good job, and all of these inner critics, that things that come up in my brain. But with that space and time, they show us anyway. They show us exactly what it means to be human, actually. Like, humans are curious by nature. That's why kids start to crawl and walk and then talk. And, a lot of the time we don't have to do so much with it. We just have to be there, ready to provide the space that is safe and let them like explore in that. And I think it's for me, again, so healing to see it, because it reminds me of the importance of my own curiosity as well, and what it feels like, my genuine curiosity, not just coming from a fear or something I have to solve. Like, it's a very different feeling from like getting sucked into something because there's a fear behind it, like deeply rooted, compared to a spontaneous curiosity and inspiration with something. It's a very, very different feeling for me. Like, one is really nourishing and one is draining, and my body contracts. So I think it's, these kids are teaching us so much. And at Wild Haven, what age is it that you are open for?
Right now it's 4 to 12, but we are not rigid in anything. It's like if more kids show up in different ages and there's families and there's a potential to change it and make it better, we're always open. Because I find it so interesting if you think about like schools and how, like, since the first schools open and until now, even like the Waldorf and the Montessori, like not much has changed, and humans evolve. We are evolving beings. So at Wild Haven, I'm always staying open to what is the greatest gift for the collective? What is the greatest gift for the children and for the families as a whole? Because I know that we're always changing and there always has to be that opening to, yeah, to make it even better because we're always changing and shifting and growing. And I think it's, yeah, to be super rigid and keep something the same and saying like, this is how we do it. And there's no room to change that. I just don't believe that that's the way.
Mm. And it's beautiful that you have such a range of ages. I find that really important as well, because in classrooms, usually it's the same age kids within the same year. But when you have a group of kids of different ages, wow, it's really beautiful to see, because I've been noticing with Araya, she really likes to be around babies. Like, she loves little babies. So in that moment, the baby gets to be with an older kid and she gets to be with a baby. And then there can be room for change as well. She likes to observe the older kids instead of playing with them so much. She likes to watch, and that will change and adapt as she's learning. But I think that part of it is so important as well, and is actually what would have happened um, when we lived in closer community compared to these like nuclear families, compared to this the way that we live, where we've been separated from this closeness with human beings and the earth, and we're living so close to one another. We would have been around many different ages. And then that's where I feel the trust would have come. Like you said, with what was the woman's name that you said ran the school?
Margarita.
Margarita. Like, she, just by knowing her, because she has this wisdom, because she's lived it, she was able to like nourish that part of you that just needed to be held for that moment. And I think that's the beauty in it. And we're here now in this moment in time, trying to reweave together, trying to come back to one another, trying to come back to the earth, trying to feel that, because we can say it intellectually, like, we're from the earth, she nourishes us, but to feel it, like the deep relationship that we have, is to embody it, is just like the most, it makes me want to cry when I feel it. I don't always feel it, but when I do, when it's not just illogical, when I feel it, it's like, yes. And that gives me the inspiration to show up for myself, my family, for community, for the earth, because I realize there's something so much more than what my mind thinks I should be doing in this moment in time. Because the world, well, we can see, we've all got social media. There's a lot of stuff happening there. And yeah, we can have that, as we can know what is happening. And then we can see, how do we contribute to this, let's say, new earth, this new way for ourselves, for future generations? How can we nourish instead of exploit? And what I find so beautiful with Wild Haven is there is that coming together of families as well. There's a willingness to meet, to co-create, to reweave in community in a new way, not romanticizing the past, but learning from the past and seeing how we can gather in this moment, given all the roles and responsibilities we have as families as well, but coming to meet. So my next question for you is, how are you finding that with the families? Because I know the families have a big input in what is happening. So how are you feeling? How do you feel around that? What is working? Like, what is work for you in that situation? Because I think this part of the conversation is where there is the resistance, where is the blocks when it comes to the family contribution. From what I've seen through traveling and being within communities trying to create these schools, or like nature schools for kids. So what would you share about this topic?
Mhm. Yeah, well, related to what you just shared about yeah, like yeah, what that brought up for me was it can be really challenging as human beings to choose a different path when everyone around you is doing something else. It can be really scary. And I feel like that's connected to our deep need to belong, right? It feels safer to like choose what allows us to feel that sense of belonging, right? And weaving into the concept of having families and shared responsibility. it feels like, especially with the group that I have now, with this magnet that we've created with Wild Haven and the family, it feels like what I received, like the gift that I received from Margarita to just trust, like really trust, it feels like within the parents that we have now, that this is what it takes, for somebody to feel the alignment and the trust with the vision, but having these other parents who now some of them have been with us for the whole year. And yeah, being together and knowing that somebody else has experienced it, it can be really supportive in, in that gift of the trust too. Did that make sense? It's hard to put into words.
Yes, it did make sense. And something about what we were talking about the other day, around not using WhatsApp, for instance, for conflict, like having some kind of something in place when there is these deeper discussions and when they might get a little bit heated or when people are triggered. And if you want to share like what your idea is for that with the school, because things happen, right? We're all coming from different backgrounds. We all have different beliefs, like different traumas, wounds, needs, all of it. And we're all coming together to be like, yes, let's do this. So things are bound to come up.
Yes. And again, like this, it's the same with the children when things come up, when it's in the right space and people take responsibility for how they feel and for their actions. It's amazing. I live for this stuff. I love it. So every month we have a parents meeting, and by having these consistent meetings with the parents, I mean, if we need to have more, we'll call a meeting and we'll have a circle and we create the safe space for people to clear what has been brewing, what is uncomfortable, what has been emotionally triggering for them. What do they feel resistance about? What are they not trusting? What did they see in a guide that they're like, I didn't like that? So that it can be brought into the circle and shared face to face with the village and if it's with a particular person, with that person. And to me, this is what I've seen and what I've experienced. This is what is lacking in these eco villages, these intentional villages. I mean, I'm not saying they're all like this, because I believe that there are people that do have these practices and are taking the emotional component seriously and the transparency seriously and creating this together and just be real and share. But I do feel like this is from what I've lived and experienced, this is a problem. And I feel like if we can continue and maintain and keep doing these circles together, then the walls, the energetic walls that come up between the self and the other person, or the self and a group, or the self and Wild Haven, it's just like consistent clearing and clearing. And as we clear, then we can be connected in our hearts. And usually you end up even closer, right? The connections get even stronger. So this is why I get so excited about this stuff, because I know that, and I know we have what we need, and we have the people who are willing to be brave enough to speak up. And then with that courage that it takes, and with the honesty, the radical honesty that it takes, and with the showing up to share, it's just magic. It's just art alchemy,
I can even feel in my body the softening and the tingling, just the way that you are willing to show up for that and create that space. Because I agree with you, it's one thing that will create the separation is the communication. If we don't, we can all have all the best intentions in the world. We can have all the money in the world, maybe, but really, if we're not willing to be in the uncomfortable situations, to take responsibility, to stay, because to look at it simply, when we feel like there's a threat, the nervous system is either going to run away, it's going to fight, it's going to freeze, or it's going to people please. So there's these ways that, and it'll go in between them all, but none of them, all of them, sorry, will come from a contracted state where there'll be a closing off in the heart to protect in some way because there's a threat. So like you said, when we can stay, take that responsibility, not run away, be with all the things that arise, keep the heart open, because we can still keep the heart space open during conflict as long as there's the space to hold it, I feel. And And then, yeah, we can connect deeper. And maybe that's the thing that's giving me goosebumps is it is that feeling that we can connect more deeply, because this is really what we're doing, right? Like by coming to create these spaces, we want to tend to that connection to one another, to human beings, to the earth. Like this is a pathway for that. This is a space for that. And it's funny because we can do all of the conscious communication or conflict resolution courses in the world, yet it's how many opportunities do we get in our life to stay? And do we stay or do we run? So when we come together as families, for sure things will come up and we get the opportunity. It is a gift. Like you mentioned earlier, you said it's a gift, I think. It's like an honor to be in that space because we are getting an opportunity to find safety in our body with other human beings, which is very, very rare in today, to feel true safety. So yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that. And I think it's it's part of like this conversation, this topic, the the how parents can be so inspired by this. I feel like the fundamental part of this, the roots of it is how willing we are to stay when it gets uncomfortable, to like stay soft. And that's why I've also seen so many of these things fall and not work and then go back to whatever it is they were doing before, what was familiar before, what felt safe, but maybe it wasn't so nourishing. And maybe it is continuing to keep that cord severed between one another, community and the earth. So I really appreciate you you sharing all that.
Yeah,
So
and it really takes a commitment to show up because nobody's going to force the parents to come to these circles. So it takes a commitment. Like I'm going to show up, and then how are you going to show up? Are you just going to not share? Are you going to people please? Are you going to be radically honest, take responsibility for what you feel, and share in that space? And these are the spaces where true belonging is. True belonging is not putting your child in whatever in a school because everybody else is doing and they're scared that if they get behind in academics that they're not going to belong or they're not smart enough and they don't belong. That's not true belonging. True belonging happens in these spaces.
mm,
And it's an honor to hold these. This is my other, before I dove into Wild Haven, I'm really passionate about sacred circles, different kinds of sacred circles and holding these spaces. And all the time when we bring in these elements that we just talked about, it's just magic and such deep connection. It's like you cannot know somebody at all. And then you come into one of these spaces and you leave feeling deeply connected to somebody that you just met, deeply seen, deeply felt, deeply belonged with somebody that was just a stranger, you know?
I love that. Thank you, Amy. So I would like for you to share how people can connect with you, if there is any openings for the school ready for February. How would that work?
Yeah, so we're actually just in the process now of taking registrations for the first cycle of 2026. And it's going to be Monday to Thursday, 9:15 to 2:15. And there's a website that one of the fathers has helped me create. Well, he just did it and I filled it in. So grateful. Not my thing. So on that website, you can register there. You can find more information and you can also reach out to me directly on WhatsApp. My number is shared on the link.
Thank you so much for being here and having this conversation. It's been so nourishing for me. It always is when I sit down with you anyway. But yes, thank you, Amy, for all that you're attending to. Thank you for following this inner guidance as well and letting this space manifest. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for seeing what we're doing and for believing in it.